It's time to look at Eli's question this month, and he wants me to compare two disappointing superhero sequels. Now, I know you recently put an end to the Which is Worse series, but for all time's sake, which poorly received superhero film do you find worse, Superman 4 or Batman and Robin? In other words, two movies that were both the fourth installments to what were originally huge franchises before new creative control came on board. When I was doing Which is Worse, I actually got quite a number of requests to compare these two movies. They are, after all, the fourth films in DC Comics series, and are much maligned. I just felt Batman and Robin have been talked to death and analyzed plenty already. But since I retired Which is Worse, I guess it doesn't hurt to compare the two now and choose which I think is the better of the two films. This is definitely a close one, but I have to pick Batman and Robin. I agree with many of the points that I've made about Batman and Robin for a little over 2 decades. It's clearly a toyetic product, opting mostly for goofiness, and it set the property back many years. There is the argument that the campiness is meant to be an homage to the Adam West Batman, and that's a valid reading. The problem is Batman and Robin is not very funny, even as it tries to be, with Mr. Freeze shouting ice puns and Batman quipping about Superman working alone. I also find the film to be surprisingly dull, as we get largely scenes of Bruce at his mansion and the villains plotting and cackling. George Clooney seems like a good choice to play Bruce Wayne, but the lack of good material turns his Bruce into a dullard, and his Batman feels less like a superhero and more somebody playing dress-up. Even the action scenes lack any sort of fun, but I don't find Joel Schumacher is to blame. Batman Forever was made slightly lighter to offset how grim and Happy Meal unfriendly Batman Returns was, and the studio wanted Schumacher to make the next film even more family-friendly. It's hard to be creative when you're meeting with toy companies to discuss the appearance of the Batmobile and deciding which action sequences to stage. So why do I think Batman and Robin is better than Superman 4? Well, for starters, it's better on a technical level. This film cost $125 million to make, and to its credit, I can see the money on the screen with all the lavish sets on display. And as underwhelming as Clooney, Arnold Schwarzenegger, and Alicia Silverstone are in their roles, there is one actor who realized what kind of movie she was in and played the character accordingly. Uma Thurman essentially plays Poison Ivy as a scenery-chewing femme fatale prima donna. It feels like the minute Thurman walked on set and heard the direction Schumacher was giving her, she knew she would have to play Poison Ivy as over-the-top as possible, and she's the only actor who honestly sounds excited to be there. As for Superman 4, The Quest for Peace, this is definitely one of the most notable examples of a movie franchise hanging by a thread. Christopher Reeve was not even interested in doing it, but agreed on the condition Cannon would finance his pet project Street Smart, and also that the plot involved the threat of nuclear missiles. Admittedly, it's not a bad idea to tackle that subject matter, as the Superman comics certainly has had its fair share of issues where the Man of Steel fought against such threats and commented on social issues of the day. The problem is, Superman 4 essentially ended up being a preachy after-school special about the dangers of nuclear weapons. The other big issue is how much the producers skimped on the budget. While the first Superman movie was made on a $55 million budget so we could believe a man could fly, Superman 4 only cost $17 million, leaving some rather dodgy-looking special effects. There's a scene where Superman is fighting Nuclear Man on the moon, and you can almost see the foam on the moon's surface. Alright, Nuclear Man. What a lame villain he was. Not to mention the odd decision to have Gene Hackman voice him. Honestly, outside of a nice paycheck, I have no idea how they roped him back to play Lex Luthor again. They even teamed him up with an annoying sidekick played by John Cryer. To Christopher Reeve's credit, he's certainly trying, but they really gave him so many silly things to do in this movie. The breaking point for me, though, is a scene when Nuclear Man kidnaps Mariel Hemingway and takes her to outer space, and she can breathe just fine. I know it sounds odd to criticize a science in a movie where an alien man attains laser vision from Earth's yellow sun, but there is such a thing as internal logic. Guardians of the Galaxy is a talking tree, and even that movie knows there's no oxygen in outer space. In conclusion, both of these movies have a lot of problems, but I would say Batman and Robin has a few more things to praise. Let me know what you think, and thank you for the question, Eli.